Johnny, what do you think?
I wonder if she's related to Chris Vinson.
Yeah.
Yeah, his bust. About gave me a heart attack the other day.
Because my dentist, he's like,
Sorry.
both
Yeah.
of them are dentists. Call the Broken Arrow City Council meeting to order. We have invocation by Pastor Chamberlain.
Let's all pray. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for all of your goodness to us as a city. We humbly acknowledge your authority and supremacy over us. May the declaration "In God we trust" be a living reality to us and not just empty words. Lord of heaven and earth, we confess before you our unholiness and our need of your mercy. If you should rain down fire and brimstone upon us, it would be nothing more than what we deserve. We plead for your grace to be a city that lives according to your law. Grant, we pray, wisdom and discretion to each member of this council, that they might make good decisions in this meeting tonight and in all their oversight of our city, and make the citizenry to fear you and do what is pleasing in your sight. Bless our city with your best blessings, we pray. Watch over all those who serve as employees or as volunteers. Honor those who honor you. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, sir. Roll call.
Ford,
Here.
Moody,
Here.
Parks,
Here.
Gillespie,
Here.
Wimpy.
Here. Please stand and join Counselor Udi for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have items G, I, L, and P to pull from the consent agenda. Are there any other items to be removed?
Move to approve the consent agenda absent items G, I, L, and P.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Sorry.
All right, item G on the consent agenda, approval of and authorization to execute a professional services contract with Arts OK for the Chalkadot Festival in the amount not to exceed $7,500 per year for festival years 22, 23, and 24, subject to annual appropriations. So we pulled this one and item I, which is item L, which is also for a professional contract for Keep Broken Arrow Beautiful for the Rose Festival in the same amount of $7,500 for festival years 22, 23, and 24 for just discussion of, I kind of felt like that's something that needs to be presented to the council maybe if they're asking for funding. Just placing it on the consent agenda to be voted for 3 years and just, I know both festivals have been around a while, even though we do have great city partnership with them. It's just, it's citizens' money. And I think we should have a presentation on what's happened over the years, how long, like just a presentation of like when, how long the festival's been going, how many people it's brought or what it's brought to the city. So.
Well, I can just share with you, Mayor, is that in the past they've made their request to me, and I like what you've just said. as we had talked about, and them coming and presenting it, because it is an event the city has in some way, shape, or form historically supported. And I do think that, this year, the funding, they're built their program around the funding this year. So if the council would be more comfortable in not approving the years 23 and 24 respectively until they have an opportunity to come and report how the event went, and then we could discuss that with them, and that's something that we could certainly put on the agenda. I am greatly comfortable with that because we do support them, but I do know is that it is taxpayers' money, and I do believe that they should be able to come and talk to you about the sponsors that they have, because ultimately the city funds are to help subsidize their efforts. So certainly I can.
Yeah, I definitely know that they have already budgeted for this, and I do not want to interfere or make them have a shortfall for this year. It was just the additional years that it would be great to have some sort
Yeah,
of
I would note
presentation.
however, that this is vetted by Visit Broken Arrow, the what used to be known as the Convention Visitors Bureau, and they analyze the numbers and the reason for the request and so forth. So it's not an
So they
unvetted.
provide, so they have hundreds of, or like lots of hotel stays?
No, they don't have hotel
Okay.
stay. I mean, they may have a few, but not.
Because I know you have to have 10 hotel stays to get $500.
Which is why this is treated differently, much like Rooster Days, the Performing Arts Center, the events at the Performing Arts Center, and other things, because it's viewed. What it does do is impact the economy of the Rose District heavily, and it also improves the general. I mean, the concept behind it is that it improves the general benefit to the city and the citizenry, because it's an arts and event that enhances the arts of the community and the cultural aspects of the community. So that's been the reasoning behind it for the past several years. This is the first year, and I know something about this because I've served on both boards at various times. This is the first year that it was combined, and both boards have received funds. One of the reasons this year's, and I can't speak to the next 2 years, one of the reasons this year's was higher is because the city is asking them to incorporate some things to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of the Rose District. So they're
We're
actually
not covering those funds as a city?
they're actually
That's good.
doing some additional things as requested by the city to accommodate, to help celebrate that. So I know that was one of the things that was raised. But I mean, that was Chalk It Up has been going on since, I want to say 2012-ish. I could be wrong,
Yeah, I
but
think you're right.
around there. And started as a very small thing,
Yeah.
1 block, and then they went to 2 blocks, and they added vendors, and it has grown considerably to where the last couple of years, I wouldn't know the numbers per se, but I've been down here for a big chunk of those events, and there've been lots of people down here. Now, I don't know that they're keeping track of numbers. I just know that there's been lots of people down here and going in the stores and so forth, because they block the streets off, much like many of the other festivals. And then the Rose Festival has a shorter tenure. I think it's just been going for 5 or 6 years. It's also used both as a cultural event and as an arts event, but it's also used to highlight the fact that we're the city of roses and sparkling clear water.
Yes.
And it's also been part of a fundraising mechanism for the arts, or the Rose Park,
Right.
the park. So
That we have
I'm-
bond money set aside for once they get enough to.
right, and once the matching and all that. So that's I'm not speaking one way or the other, but I'm giving.
Yeah, no,
I'm giving
I
the
absolutely.
historical analysis. You had asked for a
Yes.
historical, so I'm giving the historical analysis behind it.
And I just know they both said it's for stage security, Porta Johns, but they share all that cost because it's all at the same time in the same place. So.
Okay, so that was my these are still being held at
Together.
the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Which makes sense and is a great idea. by the way.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, here's the thing. There's a couple things that I'm not crazy about is approving, which it's not just that I'm not crazy about it. I don't like it at all. Approving 3 years at a time. I feel like that each year, kind of like, I mean, anytime you ask for money, there should be almost like a exit interview where you like have to come, and after it's all done, every year maybe come before council and just give a little presentation about like, this is how many people came, this is what happened. And I'm sure they'd probably be happy to do that, but
We used to.
I
And they
feel
do, they
like-
do that to the CDB or whatever
Right.
it's called now.
but I
Visit
think,
Broken Arrow.
but the thing is, and I agree that Visit Broken Arrow should be, is that right? Visit BA?
I think so,
Visit
yeah.
Broken Arrow.
It
Broken
doesn't
Arrow.
roll off
I
the
would
tongue
think
as
you would
well.
not say Visit BA, it would be Visit Broken Arrow. Okay. But so I feel like it is at the discretion. That's what Visit Broken Arrow is. And so it is at that it's at your discretion. But at the same time, when we're looking at, you know, 7,500 a year times 2 times 3 years, that's a lot of money just to say, you know, without any requirement of some sort of, you know, fiscal accountability. But so another thing that it said, which kind of, it says some of the funding, one of the answers I got that I had asked about was some of the funding will offset city costs such as security and stage rental. So I want to make sure, have we been giving that away up until now? Like we've been giving like police security and the stage rental, like they haven't paid for it?
I have waived some of those fees because of the relationship that the city has had with both of those entities.
Right.
And because when I got here 7 years ago, it was clear that we had partnership, and KBAB was much more active with the community than they were now in some regards, and other helping of the city, many different things, and having these two events. And so, I mean, this is something that I felt was important because of the relationship and having the event, as Councilman Udi mentioned. But I do understand and agree that it probably best just to approve it for 1 year, and then actually have them come in and give their annual report, and then have them make their request, because I do see the importance of that, and we'll be fine with that.
And something that it just, so, and I'm not in disagreement with being supportive, but there are, and I hate to even say the name, but there are certain festivals that we have on our streets that bring a lot more people to the district, to the Rose District, and that don't get that same kind of funding, and that pay for all of those things. And so I feel like it's interesting to me that everybody doesn't get the same treatment. And I don't know how else to say it, but it's just like, it's true no matter what the situation is. But the other thing that bothered me, and it was something that was said at the very beginning of this, was that they budgeted for this. Well, in my world, I don't budget for anything until I know that I actually have the money. So, I mean, I'm totally fine with going ahead with this for this year, but I feel like if you're using someone else's money, you maybe shouldn't budget for it until you know you have it, and it's till it's been approved. And so it does bother me a little bit, and I know it's going to upset some people, and I don't even know who, but it's like, I think we need to just have that accountability. Don't budget for something until you actually have the money. I tell my 22-year-old daughter the same thing. So that's how I live my life, and that's how I'm going to spend the people's money.
Anybody else?
So I'm okay with making a motion that we approve for this year, for 2022.
I would just amend, Vice Mayor, I would
Just
just amend or have a motion just for the year 2022 with the condition that any additional funding has to be only after presentation to the city council.
Okay. And after the event, okay. So, and can we do G and L together, since they're kind of the same? We need to do them separately.
The only comment that I would have on it is making sure that everyone knows that if it's the approval for the 3 years, and I'm in agreement with them coming in each year. That's not that, but it was that if the money was available, you know what
It's
I mean, if
subject
we
to
had it available.
Mhm.
So it's not like we committed ourselves to it, put it in our budget to do it until we made sure that we had it. So it's just still on availability, but I certainly would like to know more about it. That's why we learn more by having them come in and we can ask questions of them of it. So-
But I would point out, because I know Beverly Forrester would have been happy to come and probably
Right.
speak at great length
And,
about this event.
yeah, well, and you know what?
Yes.
But that's the whole thing is there's something valuable about coming and speaking before council that is a great PR for the event.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I just think had they known that this was going to be an issue of discussion, I know that there would have been people from
Yeah.
both entities happy to, because they're very excited about it.
Let me add that because actually, over the years, they've worked through my office to secure the funding or the waivers, and that has been the limit. And council respectfully hasn't expressed an interest, but now that they have, and I know Beverly and Sharon would be more than willing to come and update the governing body on the event.
and I
for
go
next
every year. I love it. It's an amazing event. It's fun. The kids love it. It's beautiful. It's all the good stuff. But
I think it was the 3 years commitment, really, and then,
Right.
and just not having a background of what has been spent so far. And
all right, so I'll make a motion to, let me see this, to approve and authorize a professional services contract with Arts OK for the Chalk It Up Festival in the amount not to exceed $7,500 for the 2022 year. And I guess that's it.
Second?
Oh, sorry, I didn't make a motion. Do I need, are you doing this by voice?
Yes.
Okay.
Ford,
Yes.
Udi,
Abstain.
Parks,
Yes,
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
yes,
And I will also make a motion, approve and authorize execution of a professional services contract with Keep Broken Arrow Beautiful for the Rose Festival in an amount not to exceed $7,500 for the 2022 year.
second.
we have a motion and a second, roll call.
Ford,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes,
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes. All right. Item I is approval of an authorization to execute a mutual settlement agreement with Central Square Technologies for noncompliance with the functional and technical requirements of RFP 19146. Chief Berryhill.
Mayor, City Council, Mr. Spurgeon, good evening. So the records management system, the enterprise software for the entire police department is being switched over this year. One component of that is a computer-aided dispatch system. There's multi-facets on things that are supposed to be functional within the contract itself. During the process, they discovered that the auto backup recovery, it was not allowed under the current architecture. So what that means, and I think Scott Carr's in the room, he can probably explain it simpler than I can, but I'm going to try anyway.
He's coming.
So from time to time, they will download or update the software system and dispatch, the CAD system, okay, just much like your phone. For the time period that goes offline, everything will switch over to a backup system. Okay, the backup system has all the same software and perform all the same functions that the initial system does. So what happens is when that software update is done or maintenance is completed, dispatchers will switch back over to the main server, right back where they were. The information that's captured on the backup server, I'm glad you're behind me, on the backup server,
He's your backer today.
Yeah.
he's on the backup server.
I can tap in.
Yeah. It's there, it never goes away. And the only thing that's not functional, it doesn't automatically push over to the main server. So the information is still there, it's searchable, and it can be manually pushed over to the main server. So that's the only part of the functionality that wasn't adhered to by the contract. But Mr. Carr can explain, they negotiated $145,000 savings to the city by doing so.
Okay.
So I'll let him explain.
Just to add to that, this is actually formally correcting their response to our initial RFP. And in their response, they indicated, we actually asked in two different places, is there an auto recovery feature when we go back from the backup system to the primary?
And in the first place where we had asked that question, they said no. In the second place, later in the RFP response, where they answered that question, they said yes. That was a mistake and an error on their part. Now, that said, there was a lot of discussion that went into how to make this right. So the $145,401 is their recognition of their mistake, and they're basically writing the check back to the city of Broken Arrow for our trouble. We have engaged them at very high levels, their senior management, and discussed the fact that Central Square's legacy system had this feature, the 25, 30-year-old system that we're getting off of. They would love to have that feature. It's just something that wasn't on their roadmap, but because of our discussions and because of their recognition, they are putting it on the roadmap, and we look forward to further discussions and guiding the product managers on how to implement that. And I'm happy to clarify any other questions you may have.
Well, that does make me feel a little bit better, because when I saw that it was, like we needed it and then now we didn't need it. And I was like, well, I was concerned about the officer safety and firefighter safety, like wherever they go. So that was a concern of mine. And my other question was, are they going to try to fix it or try to make it to where it would be helpful? And you answered that question as well. I just wanted to, is it going, like, is it up and
Just
running?
as a general update, no, our go live date is September 27th. So we are taxiing down the runway. There is a lot of training on the new system going on in both police and fire as we approach that date. And Central Square is working diligently to make sure that they have everything ready for us on their side. In one of your questions, you had asked about the backing up and all of that. This system is a little unique for us in the area where the administration, the backups, everything is actually handled by Central Square. We do have the servers on site, and we are responsible for the hardware. They will let us know what we need to do and when we need to do it. But we don't administrate the actual software. They are responsible for that. And to put that another way, they are legally liable for any and every outage that we may have, according to our agreement. And if our track record is such, I will be holding them to every dotted I and crossed T of that agreement.
So to follow up on the $145,000, so they aren't literally giving us a check, or are they?
They're not giving us a check in that they're waiving that in a cost that we would write a check to them. In essence, we don't have to write that check, they're covering it. And
For next year, for this next year's
it's
maintenance?
for the first year
Okay.
maintenance.
So we normally would have paid them $145,000 in maintenance.
We normally pay them quite a bit more than that
Okay.
for all the products we receive for police and fire.
So one of the questions I asked was, are we confident? Because have you ever done that? Has anybody ever done that before, where you pay something for somebody and then they owe you money? So like, well, we'll just trade out for this. But it never really feels like you're getting your money's worth. So are we confident that the maintenance services that they're going to give us, to them, it's going to feel like for free because they've already gotten their money? Are we confident we're going to get as good a service?
I am confident, yes. And the timing of this at this particular point is not coincidence. We, in our discussions, have held on to this to make sure that up to this point, they've delivered everything they need to.
Okay.
Otherwise, if they didn't, this would go a little different direction. So we had that leverage. In addition, as we go forward, we expect excellent, stellar service from them. They understand that very clearly. The strength of the overall project, I want to say, is one that's reflective of a very complex system. So we have been implementing a variety of ERP systems here for the city of Broken Arrow, enterprise resource planning systems.
And this is our last one to go live with. But this one is the most complex because it covers so much, our entire public safety area and our courts system. And as such, even with all of our ERP systems, sometimes things get a little messy. It's not my first rodeo doing this, and I've yet to implement an ERP system that was 100% clean. It's always a little bit messy. These things do happen. They're speed bumps if you can agree with the vendor on how to proceed. And I think we have a really good agreement here. So as we proceed, this is something we will watch extraordinarily carefully going forward.
So I was not on the council when this was originally signed, May 19th, 2020. So when did we find out in the process that they couldn't come through with the backup?
It was actually after that. In fact, when I first came in the door, which was just a little ahead of that, February 2020, the bulk of the agreement was already fleshed out. We did some due diligence on their cybersecurity, and we spent a couple extra months, and that's why that ended up getting signed in May and not in January. It was somewhere shortly after that, as we were going through the project, and I'm talking off the top of my head here, so you'll have to forgive me, but I feel like it was a few months, 3 or 4 months down the road, that we brought up that particular item. And they said, well, actually, we said that wasn't a feature. And we said, no, we see that it is. It turns out we're both right, because like I said, it's one way in one place and one way in another place. So that's when we began discussions on, well, how do we solve this? And because it does require an agreement to settle this, we decided to hold that as leverage and wait till the end.
Well, as long as you feel confident that our officers and that the firefighters will have all the information they need when they roll up on a call, that was my main concern.
Yes.
So if you feel confident that we can get there
Yes.
with this, and that they are working on trying to get it back up, then I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think we will be continuing conversations, and we'll be looking forward to that on the roadmap. The big first order of business is getting live on their system.
And that'll be the 27th of
September 27th. That's what I like to call the starting line of our relationship with the vendor.
All right.
Thank you.
Nice job, Scott.
Thank you, Chief.
So we're just recommending that the approve and authorize the execution of the mutual settlement agreement for RFP 19.146. You have to answer any more questions, or Scott can, since he's still in the room.
Make a motion to approve item 9.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Ford,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes. All right. Item P, approval of and authorization to execute resolution number 1487, a resolution of the Broken Arrow City Council extending the current use agreement between the City of Broken Arrow and the Broken Arrow Historical Society from September 9th, 2022 until September 23rd, 2022 for property located at 400 South Main Street.
I asked for this to be pulled just because I love talking about it so much. I just wanted maybe some history just to be put on the record of what we're actually voting on
Why
here.
we're extending again.
Yes. Is there? Yeah.
Well, Vice Mayor, members of council, as you know, the original contract expired, was set to expire on June 30th of this year. And as a result of the council's request to the board of directors, the contract was extended to allow additional time for the city to visit with the board of directors at the museum about the possibility of adding a member of the governing body of their choosing to serve on the board. I think 3 weeks ago today, there was a meeting held with the president, the incoming president, and I think the vice president as well, and there was the secretary, where I essentially said that, they had made a decision which was, they didn't specifically vote on what the council asked for, but they did take a vote, which was not consistent with what the council had requested. So I asked them to reconsider their decision and then shared with them if they would not reconsider, then, the changes that I would recommend to the city council with regard to the user agreement. And 3 of the 4 members that were there were in support of what I had suggested and said they would go back and talk to the board of directors about it. And it came to my attention that tomorrow night, September 7th, they're having a general membership meeting. And then after that, to update the members on the interactions between the city and the museum. And then shortly after that meeting's over, they're going to take a vote on considering 2 members of council that have submitted applications on one of those individuals in terms of serving on their board of directors. And I'm hoping that I'll get notice from either the president or incoming president tomorrow evening or Thursday on their decision. Now, if the decision is to add one of the 2 council members that have applied, then what I'll do is I'll finalize the use agreement. I'll get that out to the council members and to the museum board members to take a look at, and hopefully everything will be in order to bring it to you on September 20th. That's what I'm hopeful. If in fact that the decision is not in favor as requested, then I'm still going to present them with the use agreement, a draft one, as well as to you with my recommendations on what should be in the use agreement. And so as soon as I hear something, either tomorrow night or Thursday morning, I will let you know, and then I will let you know what my plan is in terms of what I'm going to recommend to you with regard to the use agreement.
So, and when we had that meeting, they said they could meet our deadline so that we could approve their use agreement at this council meeting, but then now are requesting once again additional time.
Yes, no one reached out to me to let me know about the meeting they were having tomorrow night. I noticed it through an email that was sent to me. And so I reached out to the incoming president to get an update and was informed at the meeting. And obviously they didn't mention anything at the meeting that we're going to try to have a general membership meeting before the board meeting. And so I just asked for a clarification, and that's why I presented it, because it is the city that we could let the use agreement expire. I just want to make that point because of the favorable response that I got from the president, the incoming president, and the secretary at that meeting. I felt comfortable in recommending an additional extension. So I think that my position with regard to this matter was very clear. And so I'm hopeful that they will consider what I presented at the meeting. And if they do, then I believe this matter may be resolved for a period of time, and we can move on. If not, then I'll be asking the city council members to actually take a different approach to our partnership.
And just for anybody watching that has no idea what we're talking about, this is just, we asked for a member of the city council to be on the Broken Arrow Historical Society board as a voting member, mainly because the citizens own the building. It was voted on through a general obligation bond, which actually that's been paid off now, and that we spend $24,000 a year plus any major maintenance required. And so we have a significant financial responsibility, and it was just, and I'll just speak for myself. That was the reason, is just because of our fiscal fiduciary responsibility, as for the people's money.
And we were up for renewal on contracts, and we're unifying contracts, and realized they were the only use agreement that didn't have a council member on their board.
I was going to say the rest of them have agreed. I asked even several months ago, knowing I'm going off the board at the senior center, I told them I would be willing to serve on their board. I never heard anything other than they wanted me to fill out an application. So my application is sitting there that, you know what I mean? So I don't know what they decided. I haven't really talked to anybody at all.
Yeah.
I might not have a job at all. So, but it's a great organization, and this is I don't know what's caused the problem. I've said before, I was really upset with the inability of us to get along with the History Museum. They're such an important part of our city. So we'll see what they go with the applications that we've put in to see if they will choose one of us to be on that board.
And I did want to let everyone know, I mean, I'm fine with keeping this date. I will not be at the September 20th council meeting, so I won't be voting on it because I will not be here that week. So, but I'm good with moving forward, but I just wanted to make sure y'all knew that.
Well, I think it's time we should move forward one way or the other. at
Exactly.
that
Well, yeah,
time.
it's been a little while. We keep
Well,
pushing it forward, so.
Okay.
No, I was disappointed that they didn't call something together before the current extension was about to expire. And,
Or even inform you that they were
Mhm.
going to meet your deadline.
I guess the thing that bothers me the most is that, from the misinformation that has been generated on this, and I don't believe it's been on our part, quite frankly, is that now, anytime the city asks somebody for something, my concern is the perception is going to be is all of a sudden, here we go. When the city has a responsibility, and I don't think any of us take that lightly.
Right.
No, I certainly don't. So I'll let someone make that motion.
So we need to extend it to the next council meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. My recommendation is that you extend it to the 23rd. And just to reiterate, you will see a draft. It's essentially finished. I just have to, one or two paragraphs that I need to determine based on the decision, whether they will be in the draft that I will submit to the governing body and to the board of directors. I just need an answer.
I'd make that motion.
Second? We have a motion and a second. Roll call?
Ford,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes. All right. Moving on to item 7, public hearings, appeals, presentations, recognitions, and awards. Pleased to do a presentation of an authorization to execute a proclamation declaring the week of September 18th through the 24th, 2022 as Gold Star Families Remembrance Week in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. And we have Shannon Lucas here. Shannon, I'm going to read this proclamation real quick and then I'll come down and read. The City of Broken Arrow, whereas we honor and recognize the sacrifices that are made by the families of those who are members and veterans of the armed forces who have made the ultimate sacrifice in order to defend freedom while protecting the United States. And whereas through their service, the members and veterans of the armed forces bear the burden of protecting the freedom and rights of the people of the United States. And whereas the selfless example of the service of the members and veterans of the armed forces, as well as the sacrifices made by the families of those individuals, inspires all individuals in the United States to sacrifice and work diligently for the good of the United States. And whereas we encourage the citizens of the City of Broken Arrow to observe Gold Star Family Remembrance Week by performing acts of service and goodwill in their communities, and to celebrate the families who have made the ultimate sacrifice so others can continue to enjoy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, therefore, I, Deborah Wimpy, Mayor of Broken Arrow, do hereby proclaim the week of September 18th through September 24th as Gold Star Family Remembrance Week. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank the council so much for taking time to acknowledge our Gold Star families. The City of Broken Arrow is nothing but extremely supportive of our military community and our Gold Star families. You embrace them in everything that you do. So this means a lot to our Gold Star families. Thank you so much for taking the time. Hopefully you all, or some of you, will be able to join us in October as we continue to appreciate our Gold Star families as our Blue Star mothers host our local families for dinner and a day in Broken Arrow as they enjoy their Rose District. So we're very excited about that.
Yes.
Again, thank you so much. Have a
Will
good
you
night.
share that date again for us?
Yes, it is October 1st at 5 p.m. Hopefully I got the emails right this time.
Yes.
And they're all yes. Okay.
Yes, we have.
Wonderful. All right. I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you for all you do, Shannon.
Make a motion to authorize the execution of the proclamation.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Roll call. Items 8 is citizens' opportunity to address the council on general topics. We have one person signed up. Chris Kennedy.
Good evening. My name is Chris Kennedy. My wife and I live in Tulsa, but are moving back to Broken Arrow in a few months. I was raised in East Broken Arrow, down East 71st Street, graduating from Broken Arrow High School. We attended St. Anne's Catholic Church on Lynn Lane. I remember playing soccer over at Indian Springs Sports Complex and going to Boy Scouts over at Camp Russell. You know, I remember filling up our water jugs a few times a year down at that artesian well in South Broken Arrow. You know, the pipe that sticks out?
Still flowing.
Because I am from Broken Arrow, this is my heart, this is my home. That's why I'm speaking today. I am here to respectfully but adamantly object to the fact that the city recently approved a permit for a new LGBTQ protest by a group, Advocate Alliance of Broken Arrow, to organize what they called their inaugural Pride Fest, including their ad being allowed on the city website, which featured in writing a drag queen show at the event, not only in front of adults, but in front of children. On Saturday, August the 13th, several church groups, including myself, peacefully demonstrated and prayed at this event, at no time being hateful or harassing. Yet we received, I counted in 1 hour, 10 middle fingers. The group on their website accused us as a group of committing hateful acts against them, which was false. I can take all that. The main problem was the drag queen show. A man dressed up as a woman wearing what looked like a one-piece bathing suit. Without going into too much graphic detail, children could look up at stage and see a man in a very tight-fitting suit. Imagine your children or grandchildren sitting there in attendance. Most people would argue, as I believe, that this is a form of child abuse. In fact, sexual abuse of children, which I am respectfully objecting that this was allowed on otherwise taxpayer property. I hope to God that you find this as shocking as I do. Please consider the spiritual, moral, and psychological harm that caused in the brains and minds of the children present by an event enabled by the city on this property at Events Park. By the way, none of this mattered to the person running on the Democratic Party ticket for state superintendent over our schools having a photo op that day. Am I done?
You want to just finish your sentence or?
Okay. That I just would ask that this not be allowed on public property. If you have questions, I'll be in the vestibule outside afterwards. I have a website called chastityandba.blogspot. Our intention is just to be peaceful and loving, just to bear the witness to the truth in charity. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, item 9, general council business. 9A, consideration, discussion, and possible action for the mayor to execute a letter of commitment from the City of Broken Arrow for the Indian Nations Council of Governments application for the Safe Streets for All 2022 United States Department of Transportation Discretionary Grant Program Funds. Travis.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, City Manager. Travis Small, Engineering Construction Department. INCOG has been working on a program to decrease accidents and injuries on a regional basis. They've been working on that for quite a while now. The U.S. Department of Transportation has a discretionary grant program that INCOG is looking at applying for called the Safe Streets for All program. Because they have implemented this action plan, INCOG regionally to decrease accidents and injuries, they've put themselves in really good position to possibly be awarded this grant. INCOG reached out to various municipalities that are constituents of INCOG and asked for their support. They have asked the City of Broken Arrow to join in their application for this grant. And as it stands right now, INCOG anticipates that the City of Broken Arrow could possibly receive approximately $4 million in federal grant money if awarded the grant. And the city would be responsible for a 20% match, which would equal $1 million max out of the city's pockets. We're bringing this to the council's attention to see if the mayor would like to sign and support this grant application by INCOG.
All right.
I make the motion to authorize and request the mayor sign the letter of commitment to this very important project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes.
Obviously, $1 million is a lot of money, Travis. So are there do we have existing projects that we will be able, that have been voter approved or STCI approved that we actually would be able to identify that would qualify that we could use as a match?
It would require that we would implement this within a 5-year time frame. And basically, the city on a yearly basis does striping. Striping would be one particular issue that we could address with this funding and use match money from STCI and sorts to be able to do that. We have various signal projects throughout the city. I know that we have HAWK systems that we're looking at implementing in various locations and signal upgrades that are necessary. So yes, I believe we would be able to do it within that 5-year program.
Thank you. I just want to make sure the council knew that we have appropriated funds that we'd be able to make towards that. It wouldn't be an additional $1 million that we would have to come up with.
And this grant would actually allow us to improve even adding signage to areas that have blind curbs, things that it actually allows us to encourage that, not just for motor vehicle traffic, but for pedestrian and bicycle traffic as well.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, this is a pretty encouraging, this is a good opportunity because it will allow us to do a lot of great things.
Yes.
I love the hawk beacons.
Mm-hmm.
The more I've researched about them, I love them. I'm passionate about things I never knew I would be.
I have a particular
them.
location I would like to add one.
Me too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Travis.
Thank you.
Do we not have a motion?
We've
Oh,
already
voted
yeah, I was
already.
like, wait.
I know, I was like,
felt
what's
we
going on?
voted, but then we
Okay.
moved
The city
on,
manager just
so-
had to have a say.
Yes, okay.
We just didn't give him time to talk.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Well, I thought one of you was going to email me tomorrow and was going to say, where's that $1
that
million
money coming
coming
from?
Where's that $1 million? Yes, okay. Item 9B, consideration, discussion, and possible action to execute the Office of Attorney General 2022 Safe Oklahoma Grant Program contract for fiscal year 2022-23. Chief.
Mayor, City Council, Mr. City Manager, again, and before you, this is a grant for $30,000 from the Attorney General's office. This is overtime money, which will allow us to fund operations outside of officers' normal working hours and assigned duties to focus on high crime areas. Our grants and research specialist is identifying those areas that we want to concentrate on in particular crimes. And so this allows us to do that without suffering normal call load and decreasing our service in other areas.
Wonderful. All right. Any discussion? Make a motion.
Motion to approve. Item B, 9B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Oh, wait. I voted no accidentally.
You made the motion. You voted no.
No, I changed it.
Motion passed. Item 9C, consideration, discussion, and possible action to approve an agreement to perform an academic study of Aspen Landing trails, bike paths, and the Arkansas River corridor by the University of Oklahoma Urban Design Studio as suggested in the 2019 comprehensive plan. Larry.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, City Manager. I can't tell you how excited I am to actually come before you on this project, just because, two things. One, it is a part of our comprehensive plan. Really three things. It is part of our comprehensive plan. Number two, it actually gets to broaden student academic, especially now that opportunity being in Broken Arrow. And number three, it doesn't cost us a dime.
Yes.
So those are all three wonderful things, especially considering we actually did budget for this project this fiscal year in our CIT account. I'm going to ask Farhad Daroga to come up here, and he's been spearheading this project with Sean from the OU Design Studio.
Okay.
Remember, Farhad, you have 2 minutes.
Clock starts now.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager. This is one of those fun projects that was identified in our comprehensive plan. The City Council, the Planning Commission, and the advisory committees had listed several goals and vision items in our comprehensive plan. This is one of them. And primarily it was listed as the vision and a concept plan for the Arkansas River corridor. So that's what's before us. If approved, this will be a win-win situation for the city to get a good vision idea to get us going in the future. It'll be a good learning exercise for the students, graduate students at OU. I'm on their advisory committee at the university there, and we promote these type of projects in different communities every year. So this will be one of our principal main projects, if approved, for the university to take on from their school in Tulsa. Again, this is a graduate student program. There's no obligation for the city to accept anything other than what is recommended by the universities to promote the students to learn how the citizenship projects work. So they have asked for us to continue looking into this, the comprehensive plan, as well as form possibly a small stakeholder advisory committee going forward. And if approved, we will come back to you for forming a small committee as an advisory group to help us go forward.
If approved, yes.
You got 15 more seconds.
Larry's itching to add, so.
He's scooting up.
He's catching
I
in.
need my 15-second walk-in.
Yeah.
So the
Thank you,
students,
Farhad.
yeah, thank you. The students that'll be working on this, what is their degree? What's their graduate? Are they?
I'm very proud to say that they are from the Urban Design Studio, the same program that I and many of our fellow staff members graduated from. Their degree program is Urban Design, which is planning for the urban environment, where we have the OU Norman program focuses on city and regional planning. Urban Design focuses on small area planning. And so this is a perfect opportunity for them to see that. We're really excited because of the interconnectivity with the Aspen project we have going up the street with research and stuff, to have that connectivity all the way down to the landing down in our Indian Springs Sports Park. I just want to say one more thing, Boomer Sooner
Oh, wow.
and Travis. I'm just saying. That's all I will say.
Shooting guns.
Be careful now, Larry. I wear orange a little bit now.
I do too, but yes.
None of you are wearing the right color though.
Sorry, we can't all be SMU.
Make a motion to approve the agreement.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Travis, that's a matter of record now.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
All right, item 9D, consideration, discussion, and possible action to execute an agreement for professional consulting services with IMS Infrastructure Management Services, LP, for pavement and data collection services. Rocky Hinkle.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, members of council, Rocky Hinkle, Street Stormwater Director. I, like Larry, am also excited to present this item to you tonight. So back in 2016, the city hired a consultant, IMS, Infrastructure Management Services, to provide its initial analyzation of our roadway network system. And so it's recommended that we do this data collection every 5 to 7 years. So we're in that window. So before you tonight is a contract for a professional services agreement to enter into agreement with IMS, again, to perform another analyzation of our roads. In the initial report, they only provided the streets and our street signs. This report is going to take it further. So it's also going to help us collect data to enter into our asset management database. So not only are they going to collect the streets, they're going to collect curb and gutter, sidewalks, ADA ramps, bridges, lane markings, drainage ditches, things along those lines. So one of the deliverables, or the timeline here, is if approved tonight, they will begin collecting the data here real soon, and then they will deliver the deliverables sometime in the first part of April. And at that point, they will come before the council to give a presentation on their findings. I'm excited because when this initial report was done, we didn't have the funding mechanisms in place to upgrade our infrastructure, provide maintenance or rehabilitation work. So since then, we passed the street sales tax bond and the 2018 general obligation bond package. So it'll be rewarding for us to see the results and just make sure that we're on the right track. And there's also a tool in our toolbox to help us identify the roads that we want to perform maintenance on in the future for our 5-year program. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I've bragged a lot about our PCI index to other areas, and there are cities all over the United States that salivate to have a 70. And so I'm excited to see, I'm anxious to see that it comes back that or higher based on the amount of work you all have been doing the last 3 or 4 years.
I was at a public works conference last week in Charlotte, and I was told a liar numerous times about PCI. So
Yeah, no, I mean, there are cities on committees I serve on that would, I mean, when I tell them that, they're like, they're just in shock. And I said, well, that's because we prioritize and evaluate, and we take it seriously. So commend your work, but I'm excited to see, anxious, but excited to see what this tells us. But I think it's only going to tell us we've improved it because of the amount of work that has been done the last 4 to 5 years.
I would agree.
And I have to say too, the roads works that they have done this summer, you know what I mean, has been fantastic. And the citizens so complimentary. You know, all of a sudden it looks like it's really a mess, but before they know it, all of a sudden they're really
It's
nice
and
and
smooth, yeah.
really smooth in there. So you guys done a great job.
You're the best.
Mayor, if I can, Rocky, I meant to ask you this, but didn't get a chance. I know the number of miles that we've actually added since 2016. I can't remember how many miles we looked at back then, but we're talking about 695. I know that number was considerably less.
Yes, this 695 is the center lane miles, but the overall lane miles itself is a little over 1,200 miles,
Okay.
1,200 lane miles. So the difference is the center lane miles, just the center line of the road from say 71st, 81st, that's 1 mile. But since there's 5 lanes, that's 5 lane miles in that 1 mile.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Did we vote on? Did we
Yeah.
vote on this?
Make a motion to execute the agreement for professional consulting services with IMS.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Roll call. All right. Item 10 is preview ordinances. 10A, consideration, discussion, and possible preview of an ordinance amending Chapter 6 Building and Building Regulations. Larry Curtis.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Manager, compliance with state law, which is that the state statute would go into effect in September, that we must have our ordinance in effect on or before that date and time. And so at this time, we make the recommendation that we update our residential building code and our national electric code to reflect what the state has adopted.
Any discussion?
I make a motion, we preview the ordinance and set it for adoption.
Second.
Gotta hit the button.
I'm trying to.
I have a motion and a
I missed
second.
it.
Roll call.
Thank you.
You doing emergency plans?
No.
It was
Just
preview.
preview.
Oh, preview, so sorry. All right, there are no ordinances. Remarks from governing body members?
So I would just comment, the senior citizen center, the advisory committee that's looking at that met last week. And we had a good, healthy discussion reviewing our visits to the 5 centers that we visited. Just a reminder, we visited Owasso and Sand Springs and Midwest City, Moore, and Edmond. Took back some interesting pieces from each of those, as well as saw some things that they do well, and also came to realize, we really have a fine facility. And then we all knew that we really have an excellent facility. But there were some ideas that came back about ways that we could improve it and make recommendations. So we established a subcommittee to start preparing the report based on the information provided by the committee, full committee meeting, and other information to be submitted by the members. And the hope is to have a initial draft by the end of February so that we can make a final draft ready to review at the first or second meeting in December, so that we can have things ready to go. If not, a little earlier than that. But I asked them, I'm shooting for the first meeting in December for a presentation by the committee. But I'm buying an extra 2 weeks if need be, for that second week in December if need be. But I think there were some good recommendations. I would welcome Councilor Ford's assessment as well. But I think there's some good recommendations and very engaged committee that saw both how good we had it, but ways even yet we could improve it to add additional services and times and things. So I'm excited about it. Curtis is doing a great job being our facilitator and staff member running that. So hopefully end of November, December, we'll have something to bring to this council for recommendations, and I think it'll be a good product.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm sure anxious.
I get to throw out the first pitch on Sunday morning out at the Indian Springs Sports Complex. I don't know how that's going to go, but I guess I better go home and practice. So any remarks from City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Just 2 items. First off, just a reminder, Scott Fest is coming up. It will happen before the next city council meeting. That's going to be in the 16th, 17th, and 18th respectively out at our events park. And then secondly is that I'm pleased to let the council members know, and I'll have an email for you before the end of the week, is that we were able through Matt Hendren's efforts and his team to actually keep our pools open all 3 weekends, the 2 in August and well as over Labor Day. And so I wanted to show you the attendance numbers that we have. And it was interesting is that I think we had some guards as the facilities they were working at closed, they were able to come over. So we were able to secure enough guards to make sure that we had those pools up, 1 pool open for those 3 weekends. So we'll get you those numbers and you'll have them. And I think we're going to continue to work to try to make sure we can do that every year.
That's great.
Thank you, Matt. I want to say thank you. I think you may have already left.
Yeah, I was like, who's that?
My granddaughter told me that she went swimming. Her and her dad went swimming in the swimming pool. I said, where? She told me. I said, no, hon, you didn't go to that pool. So I'm going to go home and apologize.
You need to stop arguing with your grandkids.
Wow, I know. Thank you, Michael.
Well, Kenny,
Yeah, I'm
we just
excited
worked really
about
hard.
that.
I just want to thank Kenny and Jody. I mean, it's obviously guards are a challenge. And, when we try to keep the pools open is that, some of them choose to work many hours, some don't. I mean, it is a real ebb and flow of finding the right number of guards. And I know Kelly is working to help try to improve upon that. And so I'm just happy that we're able to do it. It's the first time in a very, very long time we've been able to do that.
That's good. That's good. All right. We do have an executive session, so I
Make a
Mention the motion.
motion to go into a brief recess to go into Bama and Beta.
Second?
A motion and a second, roll call?
Ford,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes,
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes. Call the Broken Arrow Municipal Authority meeting to order. Roll call?
Ford,
Here.
Udi,
Here.
Parks,
here.
Gillespie,
Here?
Wimpy.
Here. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda?
Second,
We have a motion and a second, roll call? Consent agenda passes. There are no public hearings, appeals, presentations, or awards. And item 6, general authority business. 6A, consideration, discussion, and possible award of the lowest responsible bidder to Triangle Construction and Utility LLC, and approve the authorized execution of a construction contract for the wastewater collection system. Ethan Edwards.
Good evening, everybody. Ethan Edwards, Director of Engineering and Construction. I'm more excited than any previous city staff member to present tonight. So that's on the record. So what we have before you tonight are two separate projects that we bid together, performed by the same consultant. They're both in the Adams Creek Basin. One being the Lynn Lane Sub-Basin Rehabilitation. If you remember earlier, a few months ago, we did some smoke testing, dye testing, and manhole inspections. This volume 1 of this contract is for the repairs associated with the findings from that study. And to give you some numbers on that, we're looking at roughly 160 manhole repairs / replacements, some point repairs, 360 linear feet of 8-inch gravity sewer replacement. And then the Covington Creek manholes are located off of Kenosha out there east. And these are have been known to have some inflow and infiltration associated with them. So we're going to be doing some replacement of 3 manholes and just under 500 feet of 12-inch gravity sewer. We did have one bidder for the project, Triangle Construction, and we got the award of the project to them this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Did this also inspect the private sewers that's on that, the smoke test?
Yes, sir. And we're actually working with community development to notify those residents.
So you did have some failures with that too?
Well, honestly, most of them were missing clean out caps on the, in the resident's yard. But that can be a significant source of inflow and infiltration if the clean out sits low and the backyard drains into the sewer system during a rain event. So
It costs us to have to treat that.
to treat
Water that
rainwater,
flows in
yes, sir, it does.
Any further discussion?
I make a motion to approve 6A.
Second?
We have a motion and a second, roll call?
I was going to second.
You're a little too slow.
I
Get
know.
it a little
It's
faster.
getting too late.
Oh, I did want to mention this is also, both of these projects are part of the
We already voted.
consent order 19-1.
I didn't hear what you said.
They're both part of the consent order
Okay.
19-180. So we're meeting that requirement with the state.
Okay.
As Judge Holmes told me, when you're winning, don't argue.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethan. Remarks from governing body members?
I just want to say in my neighborhood, there was a couple of city workers with weed eaters, and I'm like, what are y'all doing with those weed eaters? And so when they read the meters, if the grass has grown over the meters, I'm assuming the little white thing that you see, then they can't read them. So I don't know if we can do a PSA, if we need to get information out for people. Have we done that? To make sure they know they need to weed eat around the meter.
We have not, but I think that's.
And then
But
that way
city
our
workers are doing it.
our city workers are doing it, but so
Yeah.
we need to take responsibility for our own. They didn't have to do my yard because my husband does a really good job, but
I know that I'll quit weeding.
yeah. But because they're having a hard time reading some of them. So if you want to go home and check that out, and then if we can let our citizens know that would be very helpful if they weed eat it. I'm assuming just around the little white thing is what they need to do.
Yes, that's how they need to do it because you are correct. That's where we'll read it. So we will get a PSA out. I think
Okay.
that's a great idea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny.
All right, remarks by city manager?
Yes, Mayor, members of the authority, just a couple of things. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge and thank Chuck Vokes and his team in utilities for great job this summer with the distribution of water. I mean, considering the demand that we had and the amount of water we had to produce, and his team did an amazing job. And I think there was maybe only 1 or 2 days that actually Kenny and I were a little concerned about the amount of water that was being produced in terms of volume. And I just want to acknowledge Chuck for his team and to pass it on to everybody. The number of complaints that we had this summer with regard to some of the issues we need to deal with were very minimal, if at all. I think there may have only been one that reached my office. So I just want to acknowledge the hard work of him and the supervisor that's out at the Lou's done an amazing job, I understand. Secondly, is just a couple things I wanted to mention. Looking at my notes here, we have actually transitioned the road at New Orleans Square in terms of the way traffic flows, because we're working on other sections, and there's going to be a 3-month update go out in the next day or so to the public about where we are. And I think we're right on schedule in terms to move into phase 2. And I think it's really cool when you actually see the drone footage and you can start to see the medallion actually come into focus when you're above. So I want to let the council know that. And that's all I have. I have one more thing I'll mention under beta.
Okay. We have no executive session. Move to adjourn.
Second,
With a motion and a second.
nearly.
Motion passes. Call the Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority meeting to order. Roll call.
Ford.
Here.
Goody.
Here.
Parks.
Here.
Gillespie.
Here.
Wimpy.
Here. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion and a
I got you.
second.
Poor Johnny, sorry.
Thanks, Lisa.
Roll call.
I don't know why I came.
We're glad you came.
Nobody will know Johnny was here. We're done. Okay, there are no presentations. There's no general authority business. Any remarks by governing body members? Remarks by city manager?
Yes, Madam Chair. Wanted to let you know with regard to the Aspen Creek project, the city's TIF district. I wanted to let the council know, and you are somewhat aware about this, but I just wanted to be more specific, is the developers applied for an earth change permit for resources completing the bidding process for the dirt work. The public should see dirt begin to move in October, November timeframe, which is absolutely necessary in order to begin to bring steel out of the ground. And so I'm very excited. I want to share that with the governing body and also to the public. And actually, we're going to be working on an announcement, trying to get together with the developer as well as research early in October, probably, to actually discuss it further and bring the public up to speed on where we are. And hopefully we'll be in a position then, as well as in the next couple of months, to be able to make some announcements. Some of the national chains that have letters of intent that will be locating in the development. Be glad to answer any questions.
I think it's,
Yes.
can I still say something? So since I'm not going to be at the next city council meeting, I want everyone to put on your calendars, Saturday night, September 24th is Harvest Fest in New Orleans Square. And there is going to be, who is the band? Darn it, I can't remember the band, but you can look online under Water's Edge, the event center. They're doing this event, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So they had it last year, and it's just a totally different band. It'll be a great time. So mark your calendar. And it's free.
Vice Mayor, I really hate that you're not going to be at our next meeting because that's actually Constitution Week.
Oh.
Well, it's ironic that on Constitution Week, I will actually be in Washington, D.C.
Okay, perfect. But we are doing a proclamation.
I know. Yeah, I know.
But we will miss
But
you.
I
I'm
will
going to
be
do
in
a
DC.
video of whatever amendment you left off on.
Every week is
Yes.
Constitution Week.
Yes, well, and I didn't do my amendment tonight. I know everyone's like sitting on the edge of their seat. Don't worry. I will be back.
We actually have a executive session.
Move to take a brief recess to clear the room for executive session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Ford.
Yes.
Goody.
Yes.
Parks.
Yes.
Gillespie.
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes.
I'm so confused.
I know. Push the button. Don't push the button.
Should I go? Do I have a check in the?